Alright guys, we are going to cover Uncle Piff's second request, so we are going to do the wide receivers this video. But guys, still, after the announcement last video, I saw that about 50% of our viewers from the last video are still not subscribed to the channel. Let's make sure we are. Let's make sure that happens, just because you're going to be able to get a video every single day completely free with this channel from up-to-date and accurate player representations and values. And yeah, thanks guys. Really hope you all enjoyed the video. Let's get into it.
That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, thanks for the great feedback on that last video. And please, a lot of data went into this one as well. You're going to see a very similar type video. Please make sure you leave a like. It's going to help a ton. It took me a lot of time to create this video for y'all, but we're going to do this just like the running back video. We're going to start with the order of these wide receivers that they were drafted in, and obviously the first wide receiver off the board, a guy that I've been extremely high on his entire NFL career, and I'm extremely excited that his dynasty price has skyrocketed. Extremely excited what's to come, and this is DJ Moore, who is 23 years old. He was selected with the 24th overall pick in the 2018 draft. He is 6 foot, 210 pounds. So he's actually built a little bit more like a running back than a traditional wide receiver. We don't really see wide receivers be this thick at the NFL level, especially in today's league where it's so stressed that you have to be fast. Yet we see DJ Moore come into the NFL Combine and he shows that he has great athleticism and he shows that he had great college production, which we love to see from our wide receivers that are still early on in their NFL career. But DJ Moore in his rookie season averaged about 3.5 receptions a game, 5.1 targets a game, 50 yards a game. And one stat that I'm going to talk about with these wide receivers that I think is a lot more important than the running back position is their fantasy points per target. Because with the running back position, it is mainly fueled by opportunity, and really efficiency is volatile from year to year and really due to the situation. But with these wide receivers, it actually matters how efficient they are per target, because wide receiver efficiency is a lot more important than running back efficiency. And we see DJ Moore, his rookie season, average 1.91 fantasy points per target. This was 44th in the NFL, so extremely impressive for a 21-year-old rookie. But going into his second season, 2019, we see a significant drop-off in quarterback play for DJ Moore, yet he is still able to average 5.8 receptions per game, 9 targets a game, almost 80 yards a game, but we do see the efficiency fall off just a little bit with 1.71 fantasy points per target. But guys, we have to keep in mind he had some of the worst quarterback play in the league last season, and Teddy Bridgewater should be an upgrade then considering what he had. And also, an extremely important thing about Teddy Bridgewater is he loves to throw balls short to the line of scrimmage. He's not looking to take deep shots. He's pretty much the exact opposite of Jameis Winston. And this is the type of quarterback that is going to really allow DJ Moore to excel. DJ Moore is pretty much probably the best NFL wide receiver in terms of the slant route. He also runs a great crossing route. And this is exactly where Teddy Bridgewater looks at on the football field. And there's also this upside that nobody really talks about, and that's what if Christian McCaffrey goes down. I know it's kind of silly to say, oh, how is a running back going down going to help DJ Moore? But you have to understand that Christian McCaffrey is getting a lot of targets in the similar area of the football field that DJ Moore is receiving and operating in. So if Christian McCaffrey goes down, there is immense upside for DJ Moore. We could see him be a Michael Thomas type player, and nobody is really talking about it. But let's go to the second wide receiver who was drafted in the NFL draft, and this is Calvin Ridley. Now, if you don't remember the story about Calvin Ridley, coming out, he was an older rookie, but that was just due to he started his career at Alabama a lot later than these other guys, and he was the 26th overall pick at the NFL draft. He was 6'1", 189 pounds, so a little bit taller and a lot slighter than DJ Moore, and he only had okay production. He didn't have the same production that we saw with DJ Moore, but we have to keep in mind he played at Alabama. He played with some other great wide receivers. You can't expect him to take control of the complete offense. And let's look at what he's been able to do so far in his NFL career. So in 2018, he averaged 4 receptions a game, 5.8 targets, 51 yards, and 2.25 points per target. Now, this was 9th in the NFL in terms of efficiency with fantasy points per target, and this is something you love to see, but we have to keep in mind that his rookie season was really fueled with touchdowns, and we know that touchdowns are random year to year, so this efficiency is not necessarily extremely sticky and could be an outlier. But in 2019, we see him come in and he increases his volume and he really maintains some high-end efficiency. He has 4.8 receptions a game, 7.2 targets, and almost 70 yards, while averaging 2.1 fantasy points per target, which was 17th in the NFL. So going into 2020 with Mohamed Sanu off the roster, Austin Hooper gone, I think this is going to be a year we see Calvin Ridley take another step forward and really bump up his targets. And we see that with Matt Ryan, he's able to get Calvin Ridley efficient targets, and Calvin Ridley is able to perform with the targets he receives. So a massive bump in targets is going to be a massive bump in fantasy production for Calvin Ridley. And there is always the banked in upside, just like I talked about with Christian McCaffrey possibly going down. What if Julio Jones, who is another year older, going to be 31, goes down, and we see Calvin Ridley become the wide receiver 1 in Atlanta? And not only is he the wide receiver 1 for this Atlanta Falcons offense, but at the same time, he's the wide receiver 1, and there is no clear threat at the wide receiver 2 position. I mean, who are they going to throw out there on the field? Laquan Treadwell? Calvin Ridley has also the upside to be a high-end wide receiver 1 in 2020. I'm extremely bullish on Calvin Ridley, and I'm going out there and trading for him in every single league, especially considering how much cheaper he is than DJ Moore. But Courtland Sutton was the next wide receiver off the board. He is now 24 years old. He was selected with the 8th pick in the second round. He's bigger than both DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley, 6'3", 218 pounds, and he had good production in college, but nothing fantastic. Yet he comes in and is really proven to be a great NFL wide receiver, and it's really weird that we see the top 3 wide receivers in this draft class. And I know y'all probably don't remember the narrative about this draft class. I know maybe y'all weren't too focused in on Dynasty during this time, but I will tell you, it was pretty much the opposite of what people are talking about the 2020 draft class. Everybody in the 2018 draft class was saying, hey, these wide receivers aren't strong. You don't want to be wasting your draft picks on DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Courtland Sutton. They all have flaws, and none of them are really going to produce. And I was able to really get all of these guys in the early second round of my Superflex rookie drafts this season. And yeah, it's just funny to see that in usual years, we see a couple top guys bust every single time, yet the top guys in this draft class, which was supposed to be a down year, actually far exceeded expectations. But so far in his career, Courtland Sutton, his rookie season, averaged 2.6 receptions a game, a little over 5 targets a game, almost 50 yards a game, and he averaged 1.62 fantasy points per target, which was 72nd in the NFL. So we see Courtland Sutton not necessarily get the volume or the efficiency, and this caused his price to dip after his rookie season. I know the narrative on Courtland Sutton going into his rookie season is, hey, how is he going to get targets? They have Demaryius Thomas, they have Emmanuel Sanders on the roster, and by the end of the year, both of these players were gone off their roster, and by the end of the year, neither of these players were on the starting roster. And so this is something that Courtland Sutton was supposed to really be able to step in and dominate the passing game, yet he was unable to until his sophomore season, where he averaged about 4.5 receptions a game, 7.9 targets per game, and 70 yards a game. And we also see his efficiency slightly go up, but it only goes up to 1.77 fantasy points per target. But I will say, going into 2020, we see Noah Fant probably taking another step forward. Noah Fant's a tight end that I'm extremely high on, and he's a receiving tight end. Then they go out there and invest in Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and Albert O. So 3 more pass-catching weapons to this offense. And there's always the possibility, I'm not saying it's likely, I have this player on a ton of dynasty teams, Drew Lock could be bad. I know that it's not really talked about too much, but what happens for Courtland Sutton if Drew Lock comes in as the starting Broncos quarterback and really is a subpar player and cannot get Courtland Sutton the ball where he needs to? This is something that is not baked into Courtland Sutton's price, and for that reason, I truly believe that Courtland Sutton is a sell in Dynasty with the addition of their first round wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, their second round wide receiver, KJ Hamler, and their first round tight end last offseason in Noah Fant, and also the possibility that Drew Lock could be bad. Now, the next wide receiver, Dante Pettis, who was taken at the 2.12. I'm not going to waste anybody's time with this. Dante Pettis is complete toast. He's like the wide receiver 5 on the San Francisco 49ers depth chart right now. Maybe he gets cut. Maybe he gets resurrected somewhere else. But Christian Kirk, the 2.15, I'm not going to spend too much time on Christian Kirk just because I just made like a 17-minute video on him a couple days ago. So after this video, if you want to hear about Christian Kirk, make sure you go to our channel. Make sure you find that video. A lot of great data points there. Now, Anthony Miller, who is a guy that I was really down on, but everybody really has fallen off the Anthony Miller bandwagon, and I don't know if it's necessarily for good reason. He was selected with the 19th pick in the second round of the 2018 draft. He's now 25 years old. He was 5'11", 201 pounds at the NFL Combine, and he had good production at Memphis. But his rookie season, he had 2.2 receptions a game, 3.6 targets, and under 30 yards. But this is the reason I was down on him. Y'all know I say so many times over and over again that touchdowns are mainly random year to year in fantasy football. I know people don't really want to believe that. Yes, there will always be outliers, but his 2018 production was really fueled by touchdowns, because if I give you these volume numbers, you really go, oh, I mean, he must have been near the bottom of the league in fantasy points scored. Yet he actually scored 2.23 fantasy points per target, which was 11th in the NFL, and this was mainly fueled by random touchdowns. So I was off Anthony Miller at his price after his rookie season, but in 2019, he goes out there, and actually we see a bump up in all of his volume, and we just see a drop off in his fantasy efficiency due to his touchdowns, and we see his price drastically fall. In 2019, he actually averages over 3 receptions a game, over 5 targets a game, over 40 yards a game, but we see his fantasy production fall to 1.5 fantasy points per target, and this is due to the lack of touchdowns, which, as I said, are mainly random. So with the discount you're going to get on Anthony Miller, I'm going out there, I'm buying him. He had no added competition to his wide receiver core in 2020, and there's a possible quarterback upgrade with Nick Foles coming to Chicago. Now, our next player, James Washington, another guy that I've never really been high on, never really owned anywhere, but I may go out there and buy similar to an Anthony Miller. He's currently 24 years old. He was the 22nd pick in the second round. He's 5'11", 213 pounds, and what was mainly concerning about James Washington coming into the NFL is, y'all know I don't really care too much about wide receiver athleticism, but James Washington's situation was different, and y'all may have heard me use it as a great example throughout many videos. And this is due to James Washington coming out of Oklahoma State, was supposed to be an elite field stretcher, and he was supposed to be able to win 50-50 balls with the other team's safeties and get behind them. Yet we see him, after averaging one of college football's highest yards per reception, come into the NFL Combine, and he's slow. He's not athletic. And this is where it's a red flag. You can't have a player that profiles to be one way and completely test out the other way. You can't test as a slot wide receiver and try to tell me that you're a field stretcher. And that's why I was off James Washington. And in 2018, his rookie season, he averaged about 1 reception a game, 3 targets a game, a little under 20 yards a game, and his efficiency was horrible, 1.15 fantasy points per target. But this is a little misleading just because his targets were so low that it's kind of hard to get an accurate number for his fantasy points per target. But in 2019, we see him average 3 receptions, a little over 5 targets, about 50 yards, and he bumps up his fantasy points efficiency based on really horrible quarterback play, and I don't understand how he was able to do it. He averaged 1.7 fantasy points per target. This was 60th in the NFL. And in 2020, with Big Ben coming back, I think we can safely project his efficiency to continue to rise, especially with him continuing to develop at the NFL level. But I will say the ceiling is really capped for James Washington. We do have Deontay Johnson emerging in this offense. We have Eric Ebron being added to this offense. We have Chase Claypool being added to this offense, and we have Juju Smith-Schuster, who I expect to have a massive bounce-back season in 2020. So mainly, I think looking at James Washington, you should not go out there and buy him, but we should use him as a reason to not go out there and overpay for Deontay Johnson. Now, let's go to a guy that I was extremely excited about coming out of his rookie season, buying in to him at the lowest price possible, and this was DJ Chark. Now, if you don't remember the conversation about DJ Chark before his rookie season, it's, hey, this guy is raw. He's an elite athlete, but we cannot expect him to do anything year one. So when he comes out at 21 years old, and he's currently 23 years old, and he's selected with the 29th pick in the second round of the NFL draft. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, and he has elite athleticism. I tell myself, hey, we're not going to draft him this year. We're going to wait a year and then trade for him. And that's exactly what we did, and that's exactly how we paid dividends. Now, in 2018, we saw him average 1.4 receptions a game, a little over 3 targets, and under 20 yards. And his fantasy points per target were so low that it didn't even register in the rankings. But in 2019, we see him explode onto the scene and average about 5 receptions, almost 8 targets, and almost 70 yards a game, while bumping up his efficiency to 1.9 fantasy points per target, which were 30th in the NFL. But going into 2020, there are a couple concerning things about DJ Chark. And first off, we see the Jacksonville Jaguars invest a second-round pick into Laviska Shenault. Now, this is not too concerning just because they had nobody else in that wide receiver core. Yes, of course, they're going to have a wide receiver too. We can't expect DJ Chark to be the only guy there. What I'm mainly concerned about is similar to what I said with the New England Patriots in the last video. There's an outside chance, a lot higher chance for the Jacksonville Jaguars than the New England Patriots of having a tank job. I'm concerned. I mean, if you're rolling out with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback one, if you're not even bothering to bring in Andy Dalton as a backup quarterback, if you are trading away all of your key veteran players for picks, are we sure they're not tanking for Lawrence? Are we sure they're not tanking for Justin Fields? It's always something that you have to be concerned with, and I know a lot of people are going to go, oh, garbage time, garbage time, garbage time. Guys, I mean, garbage time worked for about 2 players in the NFL at becoming elite fantasy assets. And that was Allen Robinson, and that was Blake Bortles. We can't expect garbage time to really propel fantasy players. Our last wide receiver, a guy that I've never owned, and I may actually go out there and buy this time because his value has dipped. This is Michael Gallup. He's 24 years old. He was selected with the 17th pick in the 3rd round. He had good production. I mean, he was an okay athlete. The story with Michael Gallup was, hey, this guy's pro ready. This guy's going to be able to step onto an NFL field day one and be an instant contributor. And he wasn't necessarily completely pro ready, but we did see him in his sophomore season really break out. His rookie season, he averaged about 2 receptions a game, 4.5 targets, a little over 30 yards, and his efficiency wasn't really there. He had 1.41 fantasy points per target, which was 96th in the NFL. But in the 2019, he takes a massive step forward. He has 4.7 receptions a game, 8 targets, and almost 80 yards a game, and averaging almost 2 fantasy points per target, which was 32nd in the NFL. In 2020, we know he was climbing up a ton of dynasty rankings before the NFL draft, but then they add CeeDee Lamb, and now we see Michael Gallup taking a nosedive, and I'm not going to act like it's for no reason. Definitely the addition of CeeDee Lamb hurts Michael Gallup, but I'm out here saying that does it hurt him as much as we're moving him down, because this Dallas Cowboys offense should be more pass heavy in 2020. And we know that these rookie wide receivers are going to take a little bit to come on with the cut down preparation time due to the coronavirus. But that's all I got for y'all, guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. A ton went into it. If you want to support the video, go down there, go to Patreon, join. I really want to give a big thank you to everyone who has done so lately. And yeah, have a great day, guys.
That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.